The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience. Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, continuing our coverage of the RBC Heritage, one of my personal favorite tournaments of the year. Tour players, too. Tour players love Harbour Town golf links. Joining me to break down the entire DraftKings slate, he, now a richer man after appearing on the Masters Millionaire Maker Special, winner of the Masters Thunderdome. It's Ben Rasa from fanvice.com. What's happening, dude? Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. As usual, I appreciate the Pat Mayo bump last week. Got me over the hump. It was a wild one, not going to lie, but obviously pretty excited to take it down.
Well, you got to kind of tell us the story a little bit. Like, were you sweating it? Like what happened? What was the team?
Yeah, I mean, I was certainly sweating it, and then I started to open up a pretty good lead, and not that I thought it was over, but I figured it would take something kind of crazy like a hole-in-one for something bad to happen, and then immediately Charlie Hoffman got a hole-in-one, and that put certainly tightened things up. Got down to it. I needed Ricky to pass Spieth. Thank you, Ricky. Clutch shot on 18, clutch putt. And yeah, that was it. That sealed the deal for me. I really thought Rory, like many people, I thought Rory was just going to blow by everyone on Sunday. That would have made it a lot easier for me, but was still able to get over the hump.
So you had Rory, you had Fowler. Who else was in the lineup?
So I had Rory and Fowler and Reed, which was obviously huge. And then I had Paul Casey, who all those putts, he saved them up for Sunday. Thank God, just going on a massive streak. And then I had Kuchar and Bryson, who, you know, they didn't make the team, but they didn't kill it either. Obviously, that's kind of what you need.
So how did you end up on Reed in a format like that? Thunderdome single entry, right?
Yep. Oh, no. The Thunderdome, you could put 6 in there, but okay. I only had one team.
All right, so you played it like a single entry. So how do you end up on Patrick Reed? Because it's obviously he was a pivot play in that region off Kuchar and off Stenson, but you had Kuchar anyway. So was that just the move? Like, hey, this is the amount of money I have left. It's either between like Xander, Stenson, or Reed. I'll just go with Reed. That's
kind of what happened. I knew I was going to have Rory, obviously. I worked through it. I wanted Kuchar. I thought he was pretty underpriced. Chappell and Bryson, I just kind of got lucky. I split those basically down the middle that week. And I knew I liked Paul Casey. It got to the point where if I took Stenson, I would have flat 50K. I would have maxed it out. I wasn't worried about being duped because it's only 200 people, but I didn't love I thought it was going to be pretty chalky, pretty popular. So I wanted to take a somewhat aggressive line. And Reed was right there. Didn't think he would be popular. He's been playing well. So he was certainly not the guy I thought was going to lead that team. It was, you know, hold on for dear life, let Ricky and Rory do it. But obviously it worked out.
Did you end up submitting that lineup into the Millie Maker as well?
I did, yep.
Did it cash?
Yeah. It was pretty solid. It came in about 1,500th, I want to say.
That's so crazy that I just to give people the scope of a 200-person tournament versus the Millionaire Maker, which has 200,000 people. I know when you think about it, logically it makes a lot of sense, but do you think that people are better off? Let's say like I entered 20 Millionaire Maker lineups, disastrous, just very bad news. Would I have just been better off just playing 3 lineups in like the 153 max?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously the Millie. You know, that's more extreme because it's very top heavy, but even so, any large field tournament like that, long term, you know, you're just trying to stay afloat at best and then hopefully one day have the stars align. The 3 max, the single entries, even if they're slightly higher dollar, it's just so much easier because you have such good leverage spots. Guys, when someone's like 6% owned, it doesn't mean that there's, you know, 12,000 people still with them. You know, it's only a handful of people, and you can really take advantage if one of those guys can get through. So I always prefer that type of tournament, even though obviously the Millie is always fun to dream.
All right, let's get into Heritage. We're at Harbour Town. We got a lot of people who played at Augusta last week coming here. A lot of guys that made the cut, frankly, and that has not been a good omen for a lot of people winning the RBC Heritage. We've had a lot of people play the Masters and miss the cut, come to Heritage, then win, or just not play at all, like Wes Bryan last year. Although I think that 27 of the past 35 winners have played at Augusta. It's just recently we've seen a lot of comebacks at this course, and we've seen a lot of fresh faces end up winning. And you always wonder, like, how the hell did that guy get into the Masters? Oh, he won 51 weeks ago at the Heritage. I mean, that's what happened with Wes Bryan. So are you targeting a certain skill set of player here? Like, we know this is not a bomber's course. We know that anyone can kind of compete any sort of skill set. I'm not necessarily looking at the most, the big accuracy guys, but I am looking at quality irons regardless of the range that they're in, short game and putting. And I rarely put a lot of emphasis on putting.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not a track where I'm ruling people out because any kind of skill set can do it. But these are super small greens. That's the first thing that kind of stood out. So you better be able to dial it in with the irons. And if you can't, you better be able to scramble. If the wind is up, obviously lean even more around the green. And that's a weird target. It's kind of a weird thing. I usually don't blend approach and around the green because, if you're hitting all the greens, you don't really have to worry about around the green. But this is a situation with these small greens. You're going to have to scramble even if you are somewhat dialed in. It's going to be really important.
Yeah, so all the stats you'll see in the show and when I talk about like Pete Dye courses and that correlation or Bermuda grass putting, all coming from FantasyNational.com. If you become a member at FantasyNational.com, you can search all this stuff yourself. There's also an awesome course breakdown page, and you kind of hit on it. It's the green and regulation percentage. One of the lowest on tour, 58% of the field hits greens in regulation, which is well below the tour average of 66%. So you're going to have to rely on that short game. We saw it a lot with Graham Dillette, and I keep making this example as the week goes along, but he was just hitting every green in regulation last year and was one shot off the lead. And then on Sunday, he stopped hitting so many greens in regulation, and then boom, he was completely out of the tournament. So you do need to have that in your repertoire if you're going to go for it. So let's go to the top. There's 4 guys above $10,000 this week, and one of them is new member of Team RBC. It's Dustin Johnson, a South Carolina guy. Rarely plays in this tournament, not a whole lot of success. A lot of people are talking about him mailing it in basically this week. This is, hey, I'm just here to shake hands on Wednesday night. And I actually kind of believe that. Like, he just played deep into Sunday at the Masters. So what do you do with DJ? Because you have DJ, you have Casey, and you have Kuchar. I would expect Kuchar to be the highest owned of this group because DJ is so expensive at $12,000. But is there a breaking point where people talk down DJ enough where you're like, well, screw it, I'm going 60% DJ because he's far and away the best player in this field?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. He's usually priced where he is, except the difference is you have a lot of options right below him that are somewhat close to him in terms of talent. They priced him where he's normally at, but man, it drops off fast. He's just far and away the best player. Other than that, though, the course doesn't seem like his kind of thing. I do think there'll be some type of hangover coming from the Masters. He probably wouldn't be playing here if he wasn't RBC linked. So I don't mind it, obviously. I'm sure I'll have some, but, in cash, things like that, I think Kuchar's definitely the safest option. And I agree, also the most popular.
Do you think it makes sense to fade Kuchar in this spot, knowing that, he hasn't won in ages, although this is the year of the guy who can't win ends up winning, and he has won this tournament before. Every win besides one in his career has come at a Dye or Nicholas track. He has a great track record at Pete Dye courses. But it just seems like if he's going to end up verging, like I could see him getting up to like 30% this week in large-scale GPPs. I'll take my shots elsewhere. Like I don't even know if you have to pay for a guy above $10,000.
No, there's plenty of options to go balanced. Big field GPPs, things like that. A giant ownership of Kuchar. When he's up this high, it's going to put an emphasis on placement points. He's not going to be able to do what he did for me last week. He wasn't terrible. He wasn't great, but he was in the mid-range, and that was good enough. At 10,800, he's going to have to play well, and I'm not saying he can't do that, but I'd probably rather take more firepower in tournaments and maybe use Kuchar more for safety in certain spots.
Well, I think a lot of what's going to happen is when people construct their cash game lineups and they're just going to use a very similar build and end up entering those in giant tournaments as well. And I think that's going to end up leading to a lot of Kuchar ownership as well.
Yeah, no, that happens. People obviously take that. A lot of people put that in single entry and 3 max, which makes the ownership even more inflated in those things. And then obviously the higher the ownership is, the easier it is to justify the pivot.
So if you're going to pivot in this range, would you go to Casey or would you go to Leishman, or would you say, screw it, I'll drop down to the Webb, Harman, Cantlay, Cam Smith, that territory?
Yeah, I mean, Obviously, I love Paul Casey. I've always been a Paul Casey guy. I don't mind finding the money for him or DJ, but I think what you just said is very viable this week. Starting a team sub 9, not sub 9, but sub 10, you could look to Webb, Cantlay. Cam Smith is going to be popular. I'm not sure I'm really on that train. I think he might be somewhat inflated due to the big master showing. But there's a lot of mid-range plays that I like. I could see myself starting in the 9 and ending in maybe like the high 7s, keeping it pretty balanced.
So I think that I am going to end up going full fade on Cam Smith only because, like you mentioned, like he's going to be incredibly popular, and I don't think that his skill set is completely distinguishable between everyone else in this range. If you're going to get them at a third or a fourth of the ownership or even half the ownership, I think that's the way to play it. Personally, of the 9K guys, I really like Webb Simpson. I think he can win this week. I think that Brian Harmon is someone who is also an excellent play. And then I just started wrapping my mind around Patrick Cantlay. He's 9,100. He was third here last year. He missed the cut at the Masters. I talked about this with Feinberg when we were talking about who's going to win, and I didn't really think of Cantlay as, I was kind of wishy-washy. I think I'm going to go in on him. This seems like a very good spot. You mentioned the short game, but not the most bunkers in the world for him to get out of, and if he's just striking it pure, he's going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys. He's not Graham Dillette. I'm not saying that, but he could go out and just smoke the field with his irons. If he's off, if he's scrambling all the time, that's not the guy I want. That's more Cam Smith. But I agree. I'm not really a big Cantlay guy. I don't use him as much as most people do. He's always popular. I think this is a pretty good spot for him. I really like Webb. I like him. And I don't even mind bumping down. I know we'll get into him, the Kisners of the world and guys like that. I think that's more where I would go.
Well, the last guy in the $9,000 range is Ian Poulter. Ended up playing the weekend at the Masters, following an 8th and a win before that at the Shell, or no longer the Shell, the Houston Open. He played really well here last year too, and then a gator got in his face and he got all freaked out, and then that was the end of Ian Poulter. That's actually what happened, by the way, on the back 9. But is he someone who's going to now fly under the radar, thinking that, this is his 1, 2, 3, 4th week in a row? He does generally play well at this tournament and putt really well on Bermuda and play well at Pete Dye courses, and where it's not necessarily a less than driver course for everyone, but it's one that plays into the hands of some of the shorter hitters and guys that are really good at course management. Can you see yourself pivoting onto Ian Poulter, knowing that he's probably going to be the least owned of all these 9K guys?
God, I hope. I mean, you're right. Him and Harmon, I think, come in the lowest owned, but man.
Well, I much prefer Harmon to Poulter right now.
So do I. I have Poulter fatigue, even after a couple weeks. Like, just get him out of here. I don't like this. 9,300. I'm glad he's priced up, so I don't have to, because if he was in the 8s, I think I would have to take a pretty strong look. For me, I'm going to just roll it to Webb. I really like Webb this week as well. He is just playing good golf. The putting is obviously, I don't want to say fixed. He's just a better putter than he's been. So I'm not gonna mess around with Poulter.
And he's almost the perfect type of guy that you want at this course. Webb's lost in a playoff at Harbour Town before. He is putting a lot better, and that's always the thing that would keep him back. He scores really well on par 3s. The irons are dialed in. He has a good short game, and now he could putt. The one thing that doesn't work for Webb Simpson always is really what he does off the tee, but that doesn't seem to be the biggest deal at the Heritage. So do you think that Webb will end up being super chalky, or do you think there's enough options in this range that can't own everyone, so it's going to hurt his ownership?
Yeah, he's definitely going to be somewhat popular, but I would be pretty surprised if we see Webb garner crazy ownership where it stands out. Maybe it's slightly inflated. He almost had an eagle streak. That's a little dangerously insane from last week, but I think there's enough options here with Cantlay, Cam Smith, and plenty of people are going to go up, the DJs, Casey's, Leishmans, and obviously Kuchers of the world. So I hope it's just a somewhat fair ownership level.
Well, what if you just started your team Harmon, Webb, Cantlay? That actually doesn't sound like a bad team to me. Harmon,
Webb, Cantlay. Yeah, I mean, if you did that, you probably that's about 28. That you'd have about 7,000 and change left for the rest, and there's plenty of value down there. I have no problem. I'm definitely going to start teams with a couple guys in that range, maybe one slightly lower, so I can bump up to the mid 7s. I think that's a really optimal build this week.
Right, let's jump to the 8K range then. At the very top is a guy that I play every single week, and it seems like no one's going to play him this week. It's almost like Dustin, where this doesn't quite fit into what he does, but Luke List comes in at 8,900, followed by Hatton, Kisner, Griot, Moore, Deschambeau, Kevin Na, Hadwin, Jim Furyk. Then you get to Kevin Chappell and Zach Johnson in the high $7,000 range. But it just seems to me like Adam Hadwin's going to be super chalky. Kevin Kisner is going to be super chalky, and I like both of those guys as plays this week, but I'm still going to have some Luke List at $8,900. I gotta.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been playing him, you have to, because the win is coming. I'm on the same level with Grillo. Like, I don't necessarily love the spot for Grillo. He's playing great. I have to play him, because if he wins and I'm not on it, that's self-exclude territory. I would be so upset. So yeah, List is obviously a different golfer than he's been. He's playing well. His around the green has been a lot better. That, the putting can always come and go with him. A little scary, and people aren't going to go to him because there's definitely a stigma about the bombers here. And I don't think that it necessarily omits them. It's just that it's not the perfect setup. So yeah, List high upside. I don't know if I'd go there in cash, but I definitely see it.
Well, I even look back at it with Luke List. You look at the two less than driver courses that he's played so far on Bermuda. Even to pile onto that, he was second at Honda. I mean, that's not a place where bombers just go and blast away at it. And then at Valspar was next. He came T16. So the short game is around. I mean, let's just bring up Luke List here for a second. In his past, 24 rounds, Luke List, tee to green, number 1. Luke List on approach, 6th. Greens and regulation gain, 3rd. Par 5 scoring, 6th. Ball striking, 1st. Par 4 scoring, 4th. Par 3 scoring from 175 to 200, where all 4 might fall this week at different dates. He's 9th. So it's just kind of crazy. In the around the green game, 7th in this field over the past 24 rounds. Like, I could see it being a week where he busts out, but he got the week off last week. That was really nice. He was super chalky and didn't come through in Houston. So that's going to keep people off of him. And there's enough names around him. It's just going to kill his ownership. And we know what his scoring upside is. So even if he comes T8, that means he's probably going to be top 3 in DK scoring.
Yeah, and I mean, you kind of just touched upon it. He's right next to Cam Smith. So if you're telling me that he's the 3rd of the ownership, it's hard not to take that. And it might be even more depending on how inflated Smith is. So a guy like that, yeah, you have to be able to stomach the downside is him just being the Luke List of old and getting cut in spectacular fashion. But clearly the upside's there and he's playing really well.
I have Adam Hadwin at $8,100, projected to be the highest owned player of the $8,000 area. That's slightly more than Kisner. That's slightly more than Emiliano Grillo. What do we do with Adam Hadwin? Because this seems to be sort of a perfect course for him, doesn't it? It takes distance at a play. He's going to hit all the fairways. He's locked in with his irons. He's a great short game player. He's a great putter. It all seems like it could line up perfectly for him, but I don't know if I want to start taking Adam Hadwin at 23, 25% ownership in giant tournaments. Not that I don't have faith in him, but I don't think that he's a significantly better player than Kevin Na or Deschambeau or Ryan Moore, or hell, no one's going to own Tyrrell Hatton this week.
No one is going to own Tyrrell Hatton, including me. I don't know if I'm going there, but yeah, the thing this week, there are so many viable pivots off the chalk. It gets into the game theory territory where it's like, I'm not sure I can justify going that route when I have so many other options. Kevin Na is a guy who stood out to me. I like the spot for him. He's coming in at a sliver of the ownership as Hadwin. And he's just someone, I feel like he hasn't been on the mind of most people. He fits the thing, good irons, should be all right. Although Hadwin, he really does, when I think about his game set up for this perfectly, I'm not looking to full fade him by any stretch, but if I have to allocate 40, 50% to get a sizable leverage spot, it's a pretty tough pill to swallow. I don't think Hadwin's immune from having a bad week.
Yeah, and it's not even that he'd be immune to having a bad week, because he can go out he's very much, because the pricing is very soft for this tournament. It's a lot like the Masters was last week on DraftKings, that if you take Hadwin at his price, the ownership is going to be super high, but it's almost a lot like Matt Kuchar was last week, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's similar in the sense that for me, obviously, I liked Kuchar, but for Stenson, it wasn't that I didn't like Stenson. There were just other guys. Reed was one of them, and obviously that worked out. There are so many viable candidates that Hadwin's going to have to beat, and at that ownership, where does it really get you? If you're telling me you have Na, you have Bryson, right below him. You mentioned Chappell. Those are guys that, for various reasons, are not going to be as highly owned. And I think they're just as good of players as Hadwin. Maybe it's not the perfect fit, but clearly they can beat him this week.
Yeah, and if I'm going to eat the chalk in the $8,000 area, I'll do it with Kevin Kisner. I brought this up on other shows and in my column up on dkplaybook.com, where you can find the cheat sheet for my DraftKings picks this week. But he has a second place at basically every single Pete Dye course. He just had a second place at the match play. He's lost in a playoff here. He's lost in a playoff at the Players. He's lost in a playoff at Zurich. We just talk about these types of players. Good irons, great short game, even better putters. That's Kevin Kisner. I don't care how chalky he is, I'm using him.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, obviously it's always a fine line. A lot of people, I feel like, get too involved with, they find the chalk and then they're like, well, I can't play these guys because they're going to be chalky. It's fine to play the chalk. You just want to make sure you have at least one differentiation spot. Kisner's not the guy I want to make the stand with. Him and Grillo, I don't care how popular they are. I'm going to play them. I like them. I'll find different stands to make as we get lower and do something fancy. Maybe I'll leave some salary on the table if I think I have a pretty common build.
What do you do with Jim Furyk? He's won this event in the past. He was 7th at the Valspar, and there's only going to be a certain amount of courses that he can actually contend at due to his lack of distance, but this is one of them.
Yeah, no, it is. I just... Jim Furyk, is that going to be a thing anymore? Like, I was all set. I like Jim Furyk, but I was all set to just kind of let him be forever. He hadn't done things. I know he's coming back. I think it was a wrist. And then he did, at Valspar, and it was like, I guess he has a little left in the tank. I still don't love it, to be honest. I think, you can get there with him, but there are so many other guys where the upside just seems so much more than Furyk. I worry about his scoring to an extent.
Would you rather play Jim Furyk or Steve Stricker?
Well, they're pretty much the same. Yeah, I mean, Steve Stricker at Houston was one of the weirder. I thought he was going to be the first round leader, and then he got cut. I think I would have to go Stricker at this point, but that is not my brand. I don't love playing either of them.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Would you rather?
Those guys. Well, I don't know.
It's tough. Well, no, it's super tough because, even if you tell me more, Bryson or Kevin Na did win this week or T5, I'm not going to find that super surprising. Between those three, do you have a preference as one of the pivots? Is it Na?
It's Na for me. Yeah, I like him. I like the way he's playing. Under the radar. It's just a guy that I feel like, again, isn't on people's minds. And the recency bias with some of these guys, I feel like if it was a little different. I mean, he hasn't been playing much. He played at API. He was good at Genesis. It's just a spot that I think he can be fine at. The course history shows that. And again, the ownership is not going to be there because he's sandwiched with Hadwin and some other reasonable people. So yeah, no, Na's the one that stood out for me.
All right, into the $7,000 level, Kevin Chappell and Zach Johnson are both at $7,900. You had to pick one. I'm going to stick with Chappell, and I don't know if he's going to be super popular after he was popular at the Masters, which everyone played, and he screwed everyone. But he and C, set up as some of the best Pete Dye players in this field.
Here we go. C will. Chappell, obviously, count me as one of the many who got burned by him. I'm assuming his bag is fine. I don't think he would be playing here if it wasn't. And it was one tournament, not ideal. I don't know, not that this is important. I don't know why he laid up on 15 late on Friday. That was very stupid. But yeah, he was 9th here in 2016. Upside, plays good. He's just a good player. I kind of would always roll with him over Zach Johnson, who's not a guy I love, not a ton of upside there.
And even when we look at things like the one bad thing about Kevin Chappell is if he does start missing greens in regulation, not the greatest putter to bail himself out, not the greatest short game either, which is kind of terrifying. And Zach Johnson has been playing with better with the irons. I prefer Kevin Chappell much more, but I probably won't own any Zach Johnson, and that kind of scares me a little bit.
I'm probably not gonna either because, I mean, the alternative for me is to own Russell Knox. I don't know how I think that that's going to end better, but that's just kind of what I'm going to end up doing. He sets up well here too. The short hitter that he is. His game is all over the map. It's been all over the map. I thought it was trending upward Now I don't know where it is, but man, the course history sticks out, and it should. That's the kind of track that he should excel at.
And he has the Pete Dye win at the Travelers as well.
Yeah, no, everything checks the box except that it's Russell Knox. That in itself is usually an error, but yeah, for me, it's hard to fit in Zach Johnson where I just have other guys at this range that I like.
Well, the last guy at $7,800, who I do really like, he was the leader after 3 rounds here last year, and then he 3-putted 4 separate greens on the front 9 on Sunday, and then he couldn't get himself out of a bunker on the back. It's Jason Duffner. He has been putting a whole lot better this year. In his short game, fine. We know that, hey, this isn't a distance course. It's a ball striker's course. One's with a lot of accuracy. That's what he does. I can see he just seems wildly underpriced. He's made the cut here 9 straight times. Yeah,
his form is a little murky. Hasn't been doing much this year, and even more recently, just not good. The irons really haven't been good. The putting has been it's never great with him, but it hasn't been horrendous. I don't mind it. I do still prefer Knox. I don't know how exactly I feel about that, but I do. But these are the type of guys, again, when you're telling me, I know I'm beating this to death, but you're getting these guys at such an ownership discount because of, recency bias, because of other factors where people are looking at other guys. It's really tempting because Duffner, with a couple tweaks in his past few tournaments, could be mid-8s, and we would be talking about him with Grillo and Bryson. Now he's 7.8. That's a nice little discount.
You ready to do this?
Now, can we just skip to Charlie Hoffman? Just omit Luke Donald?
Yeah, okay, well, we'll talk about Charlie Ho first. He put a scare into you with a hole-in-one. This seems like a course he should play well at, but I'm just not feeling Charlie this week.
Not me either. He kind of, when you're saying you're not going to have any of Zach Johnson and you're scared, that's Charlie Hoffman for me. I don't know if I'm going to have any, and it freaks me out.
Well, do you prefer Xander to Charlie then?
Yeah, I do. I prefer McGirt. Honestly, I'm buying into that course history there. We'll get into it. The $7,500, $7,600 range, I like an absurd amount of players. So this is kind of a mini dead range for me where I'm going to take the risk and hope that Charlie Hoffman doesn't connect the dots and win here, do anything crazy. I don't mind it, but you can't take everyone in the mid-range, and I don't really think that Hoffman's the guy I want to target.
Okay, we're going to do this now.
All right.
Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
All right. So the RBC Heritage, which is, in some circles called the Luke Donald Open, he comes in at $7,700. When we have this debate on Twitter and everywhere, it's recent form, does course history matter? Well, in his past 9 starts at the RBC Heritage, Luke Donald has come 2nd or 3rd 7 times, including last year when he had 0 form to speak of coming in. He is an excellent Pete Dye player. He is an excellent putter. He putts even better on Bermuda grass. He has the short game at this course absolutely figured out. What do you do with him? He's throwing a wrench into everyone's ownership projections because no one knows where he's going to come out, because some people are just going to blindly say, you know what, I'm going to do it. And I told myself after last year, I'm going to play Luke Donald. I won't let anyone talk myself out of it, and I think I've talked myself out of it.
Yeah, I am not someone who plays Luke Donald. I did not play him last year. And now this year, it's the same story where I'm just like, well, look at this recent form. There's no way that this guy is just going to conjure it up again. He probably will. I don't know this is obviously a great overarching debate where does someone with recent form that's atrocious, who has no signs of life, going to a place that he clearly has figured out, does that trump it? For me, no. I don't care. Luke Donald could come in second forever. I'm never going to play him here. If that's what beats me, and we've shown in recent years that clearly it has, so be it. I can't imagine myself jumping on Luke Donald. He's going to be owned, and just watching Luke Donald play miserable golf. Now, clearly we haven't seen that here, but at some point, I'm not saying this is like KJ Choi, but that's what comes to mind. I think it's Genesis, where he had made like 40 cuts in a row, like going back to like the 70s, it felt like. And eventually that was going to end. Now, this guy obviously isn't making cuts. He's competing. But man, are you really going to play Luke Donald?
I'm giving it serious consideration because the big thing with me is there's guys lower that I like. And I guess it depends on the teams that I construct and how popular that I do project him to be. Because am I willing to be wrong at Luke Donald if he's 20% owned? Yeah, I am actually. Like if he's going to end up being the chalk, then I want no part of it. But I think there are enough people who are thinking on the same lines that we are, and he'll just end up going under owned.
I will say this. I don't think he's going to be massive chalk because there are enough people that are just going to look at the course, not the course history, the recent form, and just be like, I can't play this guy. I don't care. Which obviously is not like, I hope everybody plays him because I want the bigger leverage. I just can't. When you have guys like Molinari and Hahn and Ben, even for me, because I'm sick, Fitzpatrick, I would rather play Fitzpatrick and just watch him get cut again, even though he claims he likes this course. There are too many guys that I would rather use. Some will be lesser owned than Luke Donald. I just don't know how I justify playing Luke Donald here, even though clearly the course history is what it is.
You know me at the $7,500 range. You know where I'm going, right?
Grayson.
No, I was gonna be Grayson, but like this isn't a pure Bombers track. Maybe you need to scale away from Grayson a little bit. I really like James Hahn again.
Yeah, I mean, James Hahn, I think it was you. I'll give you the credit because it's been working. I've been playing James Hahn every week. He makes the cut. He's always good. Last couple of years here hasn't been great, but man, he's in the group of guys that I think are just a different player right now. I mean, he's consistently playing good golf. The approaches have been great. I'm hoping that will, take the pressure off his short game. If he can hit a ton of greens, even though these are obviously small greens. I'm with him. I'm with Ben, who I play all the time. That guy is kind of a mystery. I don't want to go there in cash, but I still think he has plenty of upside.
Yeah, the problem with Ben is that he's going to need to hit every green in regulation because he can't chip, he can't putt. Like, he is the biggest candidate. He and Grayson are just they're high variance in the spot because I can see them easily being cut. I don't think that Molinari is going to get cut.
Oh, no. It's easy for me to set, like, Molinari is the guy I look to for stability and for cash. Grayson and Ben are the perfect tournament spot plays for me because it correlates in itself. If they're not hitting a bunch of greens, they're not the guys you want anyway. And if they are, then their biggest deficiency isn't going to be on display. And then Hahn is the guy who I feel comfortable pretty much across the board with.
Yeah, even looking at James Hahn, third in approach over the past 24 rounds, eighth tee to green. The putting is top 40 in this field. Like, he's not one of the best putters, but he's also not a disaster like Molinari and Ben are. But the problem I have with Grayson, Ben is that Xander's $200 more. I'd rather just play Xander, who's way better than both of them.
He is, isn't he?
He really is.
It's true. I don't know how I'm going to say that he's not because he really is. Yeah, that's fair. I respect that. I mean, there's nothing I can really say. For me, I feel like Grayson and Ben are usually just, they're high leverage, under owned, but Xander I don't think is going to be too popular either. So I'm putting them all in the same bucket. Those are the type of guys that I don't mind playing in big field tournaments to kind of get away from some of the chalk plays and just give myself some really, really high upside.
Well, when we drop below Hahn, the first names that start popping up, Ollie at 74, who was in contention here last year. Snedeker has won this tournament before. Kokrak's really not bad on less than driver courses. That kind of helps him from time to time because he has those short irons in, even if he's hitting iron or 3-wood off the tee. Keimer, Fratelli, Colley, who was the first round leader a year ago. Hostler coming off a playoff loss. Charles Schwartzel is talent-wise just way better than everyone else down here. Kazire has won twice this year at less than driver courses. He's only $7,300. Like, there are too many choices in this range. I don't know what to do. Your main man, Bill Haas, is only 72. He kills Pete Dye courses.
I know. You don't have to tell me twice. I like Bill Haas, obviously. He's better than most of these dudes. For me, Bud Cauley's the guy. Another one similar to Grillo. I've just been playing him time and time again. He had a little, blip. He got hurt, and that just completely washed away the ownership. People were playing him, and then, he had that bad stretch. Everybody's jumped off the last 2 weeks. He's been, at Houston and API. He was great. I like this course for him. I like the spot for him. 7,300. That's just a steal. Plenty of other guys you could go to.
Yeah.
Charles Schwartzel, we just have to.
But by plenty, there are plenty of guys you can go to here. Like I don't expect, like I'll look at the ownership projections right now, but I can't imagine. And Ollie and Ollie, let's say, will be the only chalk in this range.
Yeah, people love Ollie. It's the non-hat. Yeah, and I like Ollie. I don't mind that. I'm not going to play him if he's crazy owned. I'm not sure I can get overweight. I'm sure I'll have exposure to him just because he's a guy. He's going to put one together and break through and win. I just real quick, how did Charles? I don't want to go back to the Masters, but how did he miss the cut? That guy, he finds ways to really do some stupid things. I've been playing him too. I don't know if I can get behind him this week.
I bet him to win, so maybe I won't end up playing him, although if I bet him to win, then theoretically I should be playing him on DraftKings, but that's a nice leverage against hedge myself situation. But it's a Siwoo effect, and I love Siwoo. I mean, Siwoo, my one and done pick this week. Like,
oh wow,
yeah, that's real risky biz. If
that's bold, I'm not gonna lie.
I wouldn't recommend people go there, but like I love him at this type. This is exactly the type of course where I want to use Siwoo Kim. You can just hope the putter shows up.
Yeah, I never play Siwoo Kim, but I don't mind taking a few flyers here just because he can, like you just talked about, if he's dialed in and leaning on those irons, he can get crazy hot. If the putter, I mean, it's been bad. He's had some issues, and that's what happens with him. The form is bad, then he gets a hot putter, gets hot with the irons, and he contends. The thing with him, obviously, as you know better than anyone, when he contends, he actually can win. And that's a huge bonus with these. There's not too many guys I feel comfortable saying could win in this range. I still prefer Cauley, clearly, but
well, okay. Of the guys who used to be really good and are at like $7,400 and $7,300, you got Charles, you have Keimer, Charles Howell's just baked down here, Snedeker's there, Graham McDowell. Like, do you have a preference? Or is it Bill Haas?
I take Bill Haas?
Yeah,
Bill Haas, of course.
Like Keimer, I think Keimer is super interesting here.
Can he putt from off the, like, don't you feel worried about his around the green?
I do, but yeah. I know, but Keimer, Siwoo Kim, and I want to even throw Patrick Reed into that mix too. That they're guys that if they're in contention, they're going to win. We've seen it with Keimer. Like, you don't even have to worry about his around the green game when he's in contention because he just puts it to 10 feet every time.
So yeah, he's another one.
Duffner is very much the same way.
And I plan to, I know you know this, I build lineups, I try to correlate something like that where it's like, okay, these are guys that if they're going to be scrambling often, they're going to be in huge trouble. But if they get crazy hot with the irons, it's not going to matter. And I agree with that with Keimer. I'm pretty skeptical that we see that of him. I would much rather go with Bill Haas, who's just a Pete Dye guy, great scrambler. Just a phenomenal player.
And no one's going to own him either.
No, I'm literally the only person who plays him anymore.
I will be playing Bill Haas. He'll make the cheat sheet this week. I'll be using Bill Haas.
Good man. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What's up with JJ Spawn? I know we kind of just glossed over him.
He got hurt, and then he's been garbage since he's come back.
Like really bad.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I mean, maybe he's still a little banged up, but him and I know we're just throwing names after names. Him and Scott Piercy were two guys I was looking at who I in theory liked at the spot. They could lean on their irons. It's not a long course. The problem is there's just too many guys in the range that I still prefer, whether it be Haas and Ollie.
I'm probably not going to use any Ollie. I'll go a fade on that. I will use Bill Haas, and I think the other guy that I'm going to end up using at $7,300 is Kazire.
Yeah, I know this doesn't sound logic, but I'm just like, is this guy, he's going to win 3 times now? This is absurd.
But at this point, I don't even need him to win.
No, there's plenty of room. I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, he had tough showing last week, but obviously it's a totally different animal. I am worried. I'm not going to say he's going to be chalked by any stretch. I could see him garnering a little ownership though, because I see the narrative there. He's been, 2 years here, good enough for this type of price range. I think for me, I'm going to allocate those dart throws to some other guys kind of in the same range.
Okay, so the guys below this, because that's sort of like where the names are congregating. And then below that, in the rest of the $7,000 area, you don't really have much. I like Chris Kirk, and I like Ben Martin. Those are the two guys. And I know you're in. How many Bill Haas, Ben Martin teams are you going to have?
More than most, that's for sure. When you, Bermuda Benny, of course. I'm also in on Chris Kirk, who he finds the ways to miss cuts in spectacular fashion too. It's not been good, but these guys, I think this is where it kind of drops off for me. There's not that much. I was really heavy on that last range, the last couple ranges we've talked about. Here, it's a couple plays that I may sprinkle in if I get aggressive up top and I need the savings. Even Lahiri, he's another, I'm always a sucker to play him. Hoping he can keep it out of trouble off the tee and just relax and club down. But yeah, this is a range I don't see that much.
Like the only other guy that I was thinking about, and Feinberg brought him up to me, and someone that I always play, it's Johnny.
Oh boy!
Listen, another less than driver course. He hits every fairway. He's good at scoring on par threes. Decent short game. I don't know if I want to be like massively overweight on Ben Martin, because Ben Martin very prone to miss cuts as well. That maybe I divvy it up between him, Kirk, and Johnny question marks.
Yeah, I mean you're not going to have to allocate a ton on any of these guys. I don't know. That guy, I always look to play him. He never ends up making it. It never kills me, honestly, but he's a fine player. I just think there's a couple other guys I would rather look to.
Well, there's two more names down here, and I talked about this earlier in the week with. I really do feel like the RSM Classic is one of the big indicators of this event. They're both coastal courses. They're both Bermuda. They're both played in the same part of the country. And generally, this year being sort of the exception, they don't attract the strongest fields going this year with Casey and DJ. I mean, Kuchar plays every year, but it's usually like Matt Kuchar is generally the biggest star in this field. That's no longer the case anymore. This is one of the stronger ones that we've had. But I got to give Austin Cook a look. Don't you?
Yeah, you do. I'm not an Austin Cook guy. I rarely play him, but this is a spot where he could be good. You know, you talked about putting more emphasis on the putting, on the short game. This sets up well for him. He's been playing well. Obviously, he got cut last week, but it's more a testament that he was in the Masters. He's been making cuts, and at this point, with this price, he makes the cut. You're pretty much in good shape. Obviously, you hope he scores on the weekend, but you don't need to do that much. RSM, clearly got it done there. I don't know if I want to look to him in cash or anything, but yeah, I can see the merit there. I do want to bring up a complete wild card bomb. Ross Fisher is just there, and I feel like he's a better player than almost everyone in this range. It hasn't shown lately. He's done absolutely nothing. Do you have any even remote interest?
I feel like he's a lot like JJ Spawn, that he hurt his back and then he sucked ever since. So I don't know what to do with him.
God, it's just like I could see him being 1% owned if
Okay, let me ask you, who would you rather play this week around the same price? Ross Fisher or Chris Kirk? I'd rather play Chris Kirk.
Yeah, so would I. I want to say Ross Fisher really badly, but no,
okay,
I would rather play.
Would you rather play Ben Martin or Chris Kirk or Ross Fisher? Because I'd rather play Ben Martin.
Oh yeah, no, me too. I do think though, I say that I think Ross Fisher's a better player than both of them, but maybe not right now. And he hasn't shown much. His irons, he's a guy, he can get crazy hot. His putting's been ice cold. Bermuda is not his preferred surface. Kind of freaks me out. His name stuck out where I was like, wow, I didn't even know he was in the field. He's going to be absolutely non-existent in ownership. And Chris Kirk, even though I do like him, he's certainly, I mean, he's not immune to doing
stupid things,
very bad things.
Oh yeah, he can get you, old Chris Kirk. But you're going to know, I always say with Chris Kirk, you're going to know on the front nine on Thursday whether it's going to be a good Chris Kirk week or a really horrendous one.
This is not the way to do things. You shouldn't do it. But at Shell, he really, really cost me. And it was so tilting to watch him just not be able to get that done. But yeah, he obviously has some things that set up well here. And there's a little less unknown with him than someone like Ross Fisher.
Despite the really awful short game, is this a spot to go back to Harkins again at 71?
Harkins, man, that guy makes par 5 eagles like it's nobody's business. He scores really well. I think I'm going to let people, I've been saying, I felt like people have been chasing him, and his form he's cooled off a little. The last couple rounds and tournaments, he hasn't been great. He should have got cut at Houston, birdied the last two to sneak in there. I worry. I could see him getting clipped with his around the green. I know his irons are good enough where a lot of guys are, but I see him having some real issues around these greens and scrambling.
Yeah, it's the same reason I crossed off Chesson Hadley right away too. The guy can't chip. That's where he's losing all these strokes and making disastrous numbers. If he doesn't hit the green in regulation, it's an insta bogey. That's never a good thing.
Not exactly what I'm going for.
Okay, I'm going to rapid fire some of these names below $6,000 because that I have interest in, and you try to sell me on them or tell me that I'm an idiot. Number one, at the league minimum, $6,500, a guy I play every single week. His name, Tom Hoge.
Just this guy.
He's good every week, by the way.
Yeah, he's all right. I mean, 6,500 is just that's a little. I didn't even really look down there. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. He's another one. I could see him obviously getting into trouble. If you better hope those irons are on because his scrambling
is bad. Yes, and he can't putt, so that also hurts. Okay,
that hurts.
Okay, how about this? Also at the min, coming off the Masters where he got himself up to +5. And then he got it all the way back down to +1. Then he ended up missing the cut. Ted Potter. Because Heritage, when he tore up Monterey, when he won Pebble 2 months ago, I feel like Monterey is easier than this course, but there's a lot of similarities. It's not long. The greens are super small. And then you just get wedges in his hand and he's good to go. Like, why? He just beat Dustin Johnson on a Sunday. Why is he the min price?
Yeah, I think that's the best thing I could say about him is that he shouldn't be the min price because that's just crazy. Other than that, I don't know if I have any. He's been not a little. He hasn't made a cut since his third run, and some of those he's lost a ton of strokes tee to green.
Okay. How about this one? Another one that very poor performance, but former winner of the RSM Classic and tends to not miss putts ever on Bermuda. My guy, Canadian Mackenzie Hughes, $6,600.
Mackenzie, he's in the man. You're going for some guys who have not made a ton of cuts. Yeah, he's a guy. He just definitely excels more on easier tracks. So if the wind is down and it plays slightly easy, I would tend to roll to him maybe. If it looks like it's going to be more of a scramble fest, more of a grind, I don't really want to mess around with him. I'd prefer, like Ling Mirth is down here, someone like that, who's a little more consistent.
I've got a few, but there's no one consistent down here. Give your head a shake on that one. Andrew Landry, another guy who played well at RSM, a guy who can score. He's only $6,700. Again, hasn't been playing great, but I know that he can score on par 4s, and you need to do that this week.
Yeah, 4 straight missed cuts. Not for me. Okay. He can score. That's not the problem. If you get it right, you're probably getting a top 10. I mean, I'll put it like this. It says 4 of 11 cuts made, 3 top 10. So when you get it right, you get rewarded. Do I think you're going to get it right this week? Probably not, but at least if you do it, you get it. Again, I have a couple guys, there's some real sickos. Blaine Barber is at that same price. If I was going to do something, I would probably use him.
Okay, so Blaine Barber tends to excel on Bermuda. We've seen that time and time again. He can just roll it. It's a lot like Mackenzie Hughes. Do you know who the number 1 guy is on putting on Bermuda grass right now? $6,700.
60. Not him. Not Wee Kim.
Kim.
I figured him just so you could say that. That made it a little easier. Yeah, man. This is. I mean, he's another one. Usually don't get it right, but he can get crazy out. He usually can't sustain it, but he has rounds where he goes low. For me, Lucas Glover is a guy that I just think is a better player than almost everyone in this range. I kind of want to go there more so.
I will be taking a shot on Jonas Blixt at $6,800.
Man, you were going for it this week. I like this.
Listen, I don't know who I don't know if I'm going to use Hoagie or if I'm going to use Hughes or anything like that. I bet Hughes at 500 to 1, but Jonas Blixt, I'm going to take 2 shares of him at a 20 and just roll with it. Every third tournament at a Pete Dye course, he just springs up. He won at a Pete Dye course last year. He won last year.
Yeah, that's in itself one of the more miraculous things. You're going to get 10x on 10%, so that's always a bonus. It's a guy. All these guys are kind of the same. At least they have. There are some guys here where even if you get it right, they come in 55th. That's not going to get it done.
True.
Jonas Blix will probably be watching on Saturday, but if he's not, there's a real chance that he's in the thick of it because he just has these wild showings sometimes.
Well, there's the 3 guys right below him: Corey Connors, Vaughn Taylor, and Lucas Glover. You mentioned Lucas Glover. Vaughn Taylor is kind of tailor-made for these courses in a very punny way, but off the tee, he's great. With the irons, he's great. And then Corey Connors just been playing well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Vaughn Taylor is one of the safer guys down here. Just he's reliable. He kind of knows what he's doing. I don't know if the upside's there. Lucas Glover's just, I mean, he's an incredible ball striker. We've known this. Putting can be an issue, but it's not bent grass, at least. That's really where he has can be bad. So I think I'm gonna roll there. Yeah, Corey Connors is another one of your boys from up north. Good player right now. I still kind of go with more of the known commodity with Glover.
Well, Corey Connors has the most casual swing on tour. It's not even close.
Just low key.
It looks like he hits the ball 50 yards, but he doesn't. He's just like whoop.
Hey, easy. That's good. No stress on the just a leisurely day at the course.
Okay, last name, and I think that everyone has. I don't think everyone has to play him, but I think that if you're making multiple lineups, that you really should consider it. Satoshi Kodaira. I mean, if I could pronounce his last name, that would help. He's only 6,600. He is the number 46 player in the world. He just made the cut at the Masters. He had a T25 at the Masters. Sorry, T28 at the Masters. Was eliminated at the match play. Doesn't have a ton of really good showings, but do you just blindly go off world ranking here? I mean, he's 46th in the world, and everyone else around him is like 580th.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, obviously there's some type of skew. We've seen this with some of the guys that come over with Yuta Akita. Obviously, my personal favorite. I was always a Hideto Tanihara fan.
Tanihara was good, though.
Yeah, no, he was.
He won money for us.
Yeah, he was I missed. This is kind of why I think I'm a little bitter at this guy who he took. These should be Tanihara starts. Yeah, if you're going to look to probably who's the best pure player down here, it's Satoshi, but I'm not sure where the range of outcomes is with someone like this. Could I see him competing this week? Probably not. But in terms of cut making equity, he's probably towards the top of the really, really low range.
In 2017, he had 2 wins, 1 second, 3 thirds, and 9 fourth to top 10s in 28 starts. Not bad. He has 2 seconds this year in 8 events.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing work over there to drive down that world ranking. He was impressed. I watched a ton of golf. So on the Amen Corner feeds in 15 and 16, I did see a couple of his shots here and there, and pretty impressive showing last week. Certainly in a field much stronger than this one.
All right, give me a pick to win. Who's your winner this week?
I want to say Bill Haas really badly. I'm going to go a little dark horse. I'm going to say Kevin Na.
Ooh, you don't think he's going to crumble down the stretch?
I just hope he gets to the stretch. That's step one. If Kevin Na crumbles very late on Sunday, I'll call that a moral victory. But I really do like this spot for him. I don't think not anyone, he's not going to be one of the first names people think of. And he has the tools to excel at a course like this. I think it's wide open. We saw that Wesley Bryan won here. If he can win, anyone can win. Should
we consider Wes Bryan at all? No, just
no. I mean, if there's a spot to consider him, it is probably a course like this. He showed that clearly. I just can't across the board. If you're so weak in any area where it's that bad, I don't know how you get behind that. I know he can club down. Everything sets up to not put pressure on his driver. his driving, but I don't want to mess around with it.
Yeah, and I'm going to continue to my pick to win of the Ricky Bobby of the PGA Tour. See, woo, Kim. First or last, baby. Coming for you. I might even use him. I have yet to use him on DraftKings this season. I'm going to use him this week.
Now's the time.
Just a little bit. Like, go like 20% Siwoo and be very upset with myself when he's like 8 over after Thursday.
Yeah, just hope he doesn't withdraw. He hasn't been doing that as much.
See, that's a very positive step for Siwoo. No more withdrawals. Although, watch this be the week. That would be so devastating. Good luck with Russell Knox, by the way, in all your lineups.
I'm going to need that. Yeah, what can you say? It's Russell Knox. I hope he doesn't find the water. He most likely will. I know there's not a ton of water, but he will find it. I hope we get the old Russell Knox. He used to be great for me. He did some really good work 2 years ago. Hoping we get that form back.
Hey, fairways and par fours. That's his entire game. That's what you need this week.
You would think it really should translate, and it has. Like, he came in with awful form last year, and he played well here. So I hope that we kind of see that again.
Yeah, I'm hoping the same thing applies to Kazire. Yeah, I just don't see people jumping on him at that price with so many big names around him.
You're probably right, because I'm trying to justify it that I'm not playing him because people are, but you're probably going to get decent ownership on him. I may have to. I don't play him as much as I should. He does kind of check some boxes here, and the last couple of years he's been good, and 7,300 is pretty tempting. It's just a crowded range. That's the one killer.
Yeah, he's top 10 in putting over the past 24 rounds too. I know that can flip very easily, but it's nice to see that he's been relatively consistent with the flat stick, especially at a course like this where putting can listen. If Luke Donald keeps doing well every year, putting does matter here.
Imagine if Luke Donald wins, and then next year I'll be saying, well, he's not going to win again, obviously. So sick. It can't continue. At some point, it's going to have to taper off.
All right, Ben Rasa, congratulations again on your big Thunderdome win at the Masters, and tell everyone about what's going on at fanvice.com.
Yeah, good stuff. Obviously, we were all pretty excited, so we're doing a nice little deal this week. If you come over and sign up and you buy the golf package, you get 50% off, and we're going to throw in the NBA playoffs. So a big savings. Come give us a try. A lot of fun, obviously. It was great to root on with everyone in Slack last week. I had a blast doing that. Baseball's in full swing. But yeah, special this week. Use the promo code MASTERS. And if you have any questions, obviously just go to the site. But pretty exciting week for us over there.
All right. Ben Rasa, you can follow him on Twitter at JazzRazDFS. And you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, where my betting cheat sheet will be. At the PME, you can find my cheat sheet for my DraftKings picks and my full column with the field and course up at dkplaybook.com. Remember to subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience audio versions wherever you can download podcasts. That goes a long way, as does giving a like to the YouTube video. Help get that word around. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck at the Heritage. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!